Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Tanks with the mighty Jingles. And we've got two battles for you today because they're not particularly long. Well, in fact, the average length of a World of Tanks battle is about 8 minutes. Very few of them last the full 15, and today's two battles are no exception. Our two heroes in this battle are Frosty Dundee Doo and Incoming, both in the British Tier 9 tank destroyer, the Tortoise. The Tortoise is an exceptionally good machine. It can be played as a traditional hiding in the bushes and sniping tank destroyer thanks to the exceptionally good gun handling, great accuracy, great aiming time, but you're not really using the full potential of this machine if you do that. The Tortoise is really the kind of machine that just wants to get up close and brawl, and thanks to its very good frontal armour, the extremely good firing arc of that 120mm gun, and its insane damage per minute, it's a machine that's particularly suited for doing this sort of thing. What it is not particularly well suited for is doing the whole mountain goat thing that you often see people in armoured cars or light tanks doing. Trying to get into places of the map where you wouldn't expect a tank to be able to get. I remember when physics was first introduced to World of Tanks, and suddenly you could go, well, pretty much anywhere you could go. And people in light tanks would often spend hours in training rooms trying to figure out all the places on the maps where you would not expect a tank to be able to get. And then, of course, when World of Tanks 1.0 was released and the maps were all redone and remodelled in HD, pretty much the same thing happened. Light tanks, and later armoured cars, in training rooms and sometimes in random battles, trying to figure out the sneaky ways to get to the spots that we all know and love. What you would not expect to see is people doing the same thing in heavy assault tank destroyers like the Tortoise. Now, leaving aside the sheer impracticality of doing this in a random battle, and you could make a convincing argument that their time could have been far better spent taking this hill position the old-fashioned way, you know, the proper way, instead of, well, doing this. You could also make a convincing case that the outcome of this battle might have been substantially different if two of the biggest and toughest tanks on the team, well, tank destroyers, hadn't spent so long as they did getting into this spot. But now they are in this spot, and to be completely fair, it didn't actually take them that long to get up here. It's only taken them 2.5 minutes. And now that they are here, they have really thrown the cat amongst the pigeons. All of these enemy tanks up here who thought, aha, we have taken the hill. And they chased off the EBR-90 and the, was it a T-54 lightweight who came up here? What you're going to do now? Yeah. There are still tanks up here that don't realise that they're sharing this hill with a pair of tortoises. How can that be? I mean, oh, they've realised now. Your worst nightmare. And they've done it. They have taken the hill. I think there was an Object 704 up here who decided he would rather jump off the hill than face these two guys. Didn't do him any good. He got taken out by the Jaegeru. But the hill is now firmly under friendly control. And from here, of course, plenty of shots on all of the other machines on the enemy team who, unfortunately, have absolutely spanked the arse of the rest of Frosty Dundee Doo and Incoming's team. So they've got the hill, and it took them a surprisingly little amount of time in which to do it. Now they just have to hold on to it, which is going to mean, well, removing that enemy Tortoise as quickly as possible. The Tortoise isn't a Japanese super heavy tank. It's not completely invulnerable from the front. It does have weak spots that both Incoming and Frosty Dundee Doo were aiming for, which is why you have to keep this machine moving when you're dueling at close range, in order to deny anybody shooting at you opportunities to hit those weak spots. Unfortunately, there's only 3 of them left, and the EBR-90 is unlikely to be much help. If it wasn't for Incoming and Frosty Dundee Doo, I suspect this battle would almost certainly have already been over. They've got 5 of the team's 7 kills between the two of them. The EBRs managed to get around behind the E4, and he's pumping high explosive into, well, I'm not sure what, because he doesn't really seem to be doing an awful lot of damage. He's managed to get behind. Oh, there we go. He did a respectable amount of damage there. Unfortunately for Frosty Dundee Doo, who's busy fighting an Object 268v4 by himself, incoming is unable to provide any immediate help until that E4 has been taken care of, which the EBR finally manages to do. That just leaves 2 against 7. Now, the Object 268v4 is one of those machines that's basically invulnerable from the front unless you can hit the rangefinder at the... Really? You're coming around the corner sideways on? Well, okay, fair enough. Nice one EBR, gotten around behind him. Incoming. Continuing to put shots into the front drive wheel, which is not only damaging him, but also keeping him immobilised. Finishes him just in time. Takes a hit from the E50. E50 realises he's just pissed off a tortoise, kind of shits himself a little there. The EBR goes for it again, but I don't think he was expecting there to be quite as many enemy tanks, and now incoming is the last tank left alive on his team against 6 enemies. Potential Kolobanov's medal, but I think we're asking just a little bit too much. One more penetrating hit from any of these guys and he's dead. But hey, look on the bright side. If you were to dig out all of the gold that was fired at you in that match, you could probably afford to buy yourself a new tank. So, a slightly unconventional method of taking the hill there on Tundra from incoming and Frosty Dundee Doo. And you could argue that maybe if they'd done things the traditional way, the outcome would have been different, but honestly, I don't think so. The rest of the team collapsed so quickly that I don't think there was any realistic chance that they were ever going to win that match anyway. Moving on to Sound River and our second and final battle of the day. This is Hermani 0769 from the Elvis clan, and he's in the T55A. The T55A is one of only 2 premium tier 9 tanks in World of Tanks, and it's a reward tank for completing the 3rd set of personal missions. You could be forgiven for looking at it and thinking it's just an East German reskinned T54, and to a degree that's true, but there are differences. The gun is arguably better than either of the guns available on the T54. It's got good penetration, good accuracy, good gun handling, and a high rate of fire. Where the T55A really shines, however, is that it has the same excellent power to weight ratio as the T54, but it has much, much better ground resistance, which means it gets more out of that power to weight ratio over all different kinds of terrain. And it's that superior ground resistance, as well as an excellent teammate in the shape of that Leopard prototype over there, that are going to be instrumental in determining the outcome of this particular battle here on the Sound River map. Now, you see battles in World of Tanks where people get a lot of kills all the time. In fact, you see it so often that it's not really remarkable anymore. But it's been a long time since I've seen somebody who's had to work quite as hard for his kills as Hermani is going to have to in this particular game. Particularly since a lot of the fighting is going to take place on ridgelines like this, which, given the horrific, even by Eastern Bloc standards, gun depression of the T55A, is not going to be doing Hermani many favours. Also, because the T55A's turret isn't as good as the T54's, it's more like the WZ-120's, Hermani is really going to have to push this tank to its absolute limits over the course of the next few minutes or so. Surprisingly, for a World of Tanks battle, we're a minute and a half in and nobody's died yet. And you can see what I mean about the horrible gun depression here. He's really having to work the angles with this tank in order to be able to fire over this ridge. Plenty of targets available for him to shoot at, however. Unfortunately, they're all shooting back at him, which is, it's not good. Aside from the team losing an IS-5, there's nothing too dramatic has happened just yet. Hermani still has targets like the Object 430 over there that he's able to put shots into. But it's the Renegade on the other side of this ridge, as well as the Schwarzpanda 58, who's backing him up, who's going to be the most immediate source of all of Hermani's problems as soon as he takes his Brave Pills. Hang on a minute, where did he go? Oh, he did take his Brave Pills, there he is. The team have lost another 2 further tanks, and I suspect they're about to lose that EBR as well, who appears to have bitten off a little bit more than he could chew. Didn't realise the Schwarzpanzer 58 was there. So the team have lost 4 tanks, they've killed none, and now it's pretty much all down to Hermani and his friend in the Leopard prototype, and he's going to go for it. This is a ballsy move, but, well, poking a ridgeline with your relatively bad turret and terrible gun depression is not where this tank shines. Getting up close and personal and running rings around the enemy is. The Leopard prototype did not abandon him. Unfortunately, he was killed by the Renegade, which gives Hermanni a little bit of breathing space. He manages to finish off the Renegade as he closes in and tries to facehug. That leaves the Schwarzpanzer 58, who gets one shot into his flank, but that's all he's going to get as he manages to spin the tank around. Of course, the Schwarzpanzer is now going for his Commander's Cupola and scores another hit. Knocked out his viewport, but I don't think a lack of vision is going to make any difference whatsoever at the close ranges that this fight is taking place. He has to finish off the Schwarzpanzer, despite the fact that there's an M41 Bulldog giving him an extremely vigorous and unwelcome dose of surprise butt sex. But again, the exceptional manoeuvrability of this machine means he's able to get the front of his armour turned around, but even that isn't good enough to prevent him from taking even more damage from the M41. He's a one-shot kill now, and his frantic manoeuvring, attempting to use the Schwarzpanzer as cover, allows him to take one shot into the tracks that would have otherwise killed him and finish off the M41. I don't think I've ever seen anybody work as hard for 3 kills as Hermanni had to there. You can argue the case here that his armour did work. I mean, he is still alive on 19 health. But his armour in total has only stopped 560 points of damage, and 390 of that was from, I think, the Object 430 a couple of minutes earlier. Only one shot in that close-range knife fight failed to penetrate, and that was from the M41, which went into his tracks. And holy shit, what is enemy artillery doing here? Completely oblivious. The artillery, at least, is not going to be a problem anymore, but the Jagdtiger might be. 19 health, and that's a 128mm gun. But it's a 128mm gun on a Jagdtiger, not the most manoeuvrable of machines. The T-55A, however, is. And you would have to screw up to a remarkable degree in a T-55A to lose a fight to a Jagdtiger under circumstances like this. At the same time, though, Hermanni is not being cocky about it. He's making sure to put every shot imaginable into the Jagdtiger's tracks in order to keep him immobilised, knowing that the Jagdtiger has already used his repair kit. He's going to have to be quick about this, though. He's managed to set him on fire. He's extinguished the fire. It's going to take another shot straight into the side of the casemate, and not before time, because here comes player number 6. It's the Object 430 again. And it's difficult to see how Hermanni's going to survive this, but let's not forget the Object 430 is so far the only player who's managed to bounce a shot off Hermanni's turret. And he's just managed to do it again. Luckily for Hermanni, I think his gun reloads slightly faster than the Object 430's as well. So, whew. How is he even still alive? 6 kills, and I don't think I've ever seen anybody work as hard for them as Hermanni just did. They have a 1 kill advantage over the enemy team, and they are capping. Although there's always one person on the team who insists you have to no cap and kill all. Today it's the STA-1, which I think is remarkably brave of him, considering the amount of health he has left. Then again, looking at the last reported positions of all 4 surviving enemy tanks, they were all within 100 metres of Hermanni's cap circle. So it looks like they're having a bit of no cap kill all in chat as well. Thankfully, the rest of Hermanni's teammates, with the exception of the UDES-15, are completely ignoring the crazy advice of the STA-1, and they're capping. And the STA-1's insistence on charging forward and finding some enemy tanks to shoot at has given advance warning of the enemy team closing in and attempting to reset the cap. Luckily, it was a day late and several dollars short. So let's hear it for Hermanni 0769, possibly the hardest working player in World of Tanks history. Working that manoeuvrability like a boss and not relying on his very unreliable armour, despite the fact that not a single round of gold ammunition was fired at him. Of the 11 hits that he received, only 3 failed to penetrate. So a big thank you to all 3 of today's heroes, Incoming, Frosty Dundee Doo and Hermanni 0769. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you're all having a great day, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.